Afternoon and welcome to the November 20th City of Coos Bay Parks Commission meeting. We're going to call the meeting to order. We will start with roll call down at the end.
Jared Schmidt.
Harv Boatney.
Ariane Lyons.
Kurt Ben.
Jamie Faraday.
Greg Hamblett.
Christina Teixeira.
Sorry, and I was absent for just a second. Carmen Matthews.
Thank you so much. We're going on to item 2, public comment. We have one public comment. If you would step up, Jim, and share with us at the podium.
I'm representing OBAB in this particular venture. We have topics planned for our second Saturday cleanups in February and March. I would like to get on your agenda for your next regular meeting discussion of a tree planting project again. And that's all I have for you right now.
Thank you, Jim. And then note that Patrick has joined us. We're moving on down to action item 3A, Marshfield Pioneer Cemetery, but I do not see Cricket unless somebody else here is speaking on her behalf.
Not gonna.
Okay, then we are going down to, we're skipping around, so we're going to go to action item 3F, Mingus Park Rewilding Educational Sign Discussion and Approval.
Yeah, so if we have Alexa here from Coos Watershed, she's going to be introducing the sign for the Mingus Park Rewilding, the conceptual sign for the Mingus Park Rewilding. As you know, we are city staff has completed the rewilding project. That is done. The only thing that's left is to add the educational sign. Coos Watershed was a contracted partner with the city on this project, and they have developed a conceptual sign as part of the contract, an educational piece to be placed there. And so today they're going to be presenting the conceptual drawing or sign to the commission for any comments. And we'll once we get this concept dialed in, then we'll move on to final production and sign placement in December. So awesome. Alexa, if you'd like to come up and present the concept.
Sure.
Thank you.
So it's a little rough, so that happens you just have a normal size printer. But the overall size is what we're aiming for. So if any of you have seen the sign that's at the 3rd and Central parking lot that explains the permeable pavement, same size, same artist, a lot of the same concepts. He's an artist that's done a lot of work around the Coos Bay area, Ram Popish. Many of you are familiar with him. So this is the very first draft that he has given us. It is open for comment. The map is not perfect. There's a few things that we need to shift that Jennifer caught and that I had not caught. So we'll definitely be working on that. But this is the original or the initial concept, and we would love to know if this is something that looks good to all of you, if there's major things that need to change, if there's any, details or landmarks. The idea is that this will be on the, let's see if we can get this right, the north side of the planting. So you're looking out across. You're standing on that new pathway that just got put in. You're looking across at all of the hundreds of plants that we've planted. And the map should make sense with the north arrow facing in the opposite direction as we're used to seeing, because north is actually behind you. Because once you're standing there, it should orient like you're to your left is the bay and the boardwalk. So, any questions, comments?
I think it looks really nice, and I've always loved Ram's paintings and such. So, wonderful artist.
Yeah, he's great to work with.
I do wish that Mill Slough Channel was daylighted.
I know. We had a very interesting suggestion the other day from a community member that happened to see the sign that if we can't daylight the actual stream, how crazy would it be to actually someday, far from now probably, to just show the outline, like as a large scale art project, just so you really get a sense of like the channel is still there. All of that is still there. You just we go about our daily lives on top of it without even realizing that salmon are still even down there trying to get up to Blossom Gulch. So another idea, but
That's
yeah.
definitely an appropriate scheme, if not to daylight it in some way, shape, or form other than just Blossom Creek. The only comment that drew my eye is the salmon icon for a tide gate.
So there's kind of a missing piece there. The earlier version of this map was really focused on that historic migration route of salmon. And so there was a little bit more detail involved with that. We're kind of missing those pieces now, but the idea is that, salmon are still coming up that channel. Stormwater is coming down. We just have all of these things happening underground, and we're trying to make the connections. Having the salmon there might be confusing on its own. We don't want to confuse people, but we want to make the connections. So that's something that I would love feedback on, whether it just needs to be explained more or just taken off entirely. We wanted to draw attention to the tide gate just because people don't realize, that all of those things are connected. So as far as the best way to do that, I'm open to ideas.
I'm just wondering if to have the salmon waiting outside the tide gate icon that has, some sort of door effort. They're waiting for the door to open.
Right. That'd be cool.
That's just my
Yeah, good idea, Jimmy.
Just a label tide gate.
Well, it is
destination.
next to the tide gate is next to the salmon is.
The salmon is the icon for the tide gate.
Oh, I get you. Yeah.
Somehow that could be more clear, though. Yeah.
Maybe like
Yeah.
a little tiny baby salmon, like past Blossom Creek, like up there. But I think it's an important, relevant part because people forget that. But it also reminds anyone who ever went to Blossom Gulch about releasing the salmon and what a big deal that is and how we still continue to do a lot of those things. So I think it's an important element. But yeah, maybe elevating that tide gate spot.
Definitely
Yeah.
having the salmon there, but having a different icon for the tide gate itself.
And then I'm just rolling back to them maybe doing another salmon by Blossom Creek so they don't think that there's going to be salmon in Mingus Pond. It's like, I see that being confusing.
Yeah. No salmon fishing in the pond.
Not what we need.
I'm fine with the salmon there too. When my daughter used to go to school at Blossom Gulch, if I'm not mistaken, they used to release some fish right there next to Blossom Gulch to go into that slough. And I know I see fishermen there lots of times too, trying to hopefully not snag, but fish for fish that are around that tide gate. And I do think it's important because it does realize the historical value of the stream system for some of the native fish and other wildlife. Don't take this comment the wrong way. The next comment that I have, don't take it the wrong way. It's fine the way that it is. But, in the I look back section, the second paragraph, before colonization, some people may take offense at that word colonization. I don't know. If it's fine with the tribe, I guess it's fine with me. But because the other alternative would be just say this area was a thriving wetland around the mill slough and leave out before colonization. But, one way or the other really probably doesn't matter to me.
That was suggested by the tribe, that specific word, and we are trying to incorporate that and trying not to shy around from what happened here. But I'm also open to words, but definitely defer to tribes for stuff like that.
Lexa keeps looking at me because I've been providing.
Sorry, Jared.
No, it's all good. I think I was the one who said colon.
Yeah, it was you.
So I just there. I wanted to say thank you for coming and doing this good work. Like I said, I've been helping as a consultation on behalf of the Coquitlam Indian Tribe in my capacity with this panel, and so seeing the good work and helping tell the stories in these ways is really impactful. And even we were at Soto Goes the other day, people were already starting to admire this panel, and that was really encouraging and really cool to see. And Ron Papish is great. I've worked with him as well in the past for projects. So I just want to say thank you. And then in advance of the vote, I do need to abstain from vote because I have a stake in the game. I have a conflict of interest as somebody who works for the tribe and has provided consultation. So thank you for
Cool.
all you're doing.
Likewise.
And then one comment, not necessarily related to the signage, but I would love to see some of this imagery as a coloring book fundraiser.
Ooh.
So I
Okay.
think that would be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
I bet Ron would be.
That's
Yeah.
doable.
If anybody has worked with Wild Papa, she's gives a lot. Yeah. Yeah. If you go to Tokyo Point Marine Garden, all of those panels are done by him as well. So
Yeah, I think could be a fun educational about the plant species in our area. You could sell the coloring books and use it as a fundraiser.
And maybe try and incorporate traditional languages as well and science facts.
Absolutely.
More skunk cabbage, the better.
Alexa, is that
Jamie.
Henderson's checker mallow?
Why, yes, it is. Do you have something to say about that?
I supplied checker mallow.
Jamie may have been involved with that.
That
Yep.
was one actually Russell recommended for any wetland in the area because it's one that has been missing because of wetland loss. And so I found some, grew some, planted them.
Gave some.
Yeah.
So cool.
Hopefully it makes it because it's prominent on the sign. So is it? Good.
Deer probably.
Yeah.
One more.
Thanks. And it isn't directly related to the sign, but and Jamie may know this too. Are we going to have some signs for the plants that are actually in that section so we can identify what they are?
My hope is to do that on at a later date. Once we know what establishes and what's going to stay there long term. We made some signs at the 3rd and Central parking lot that identify each individual plant species, and those turned out really well. So I would love to do something like that there. We just didn't have.
I think the sign shows people plant power. It's kind of like Jamie said, I see all these plants. I wonder what that is.
Right.
And so if it's not on this sign, it would be nice if it was
Right.
somewhere in the park so people can walk around and say, oh, yeah, I know skunk cabbage. So I can say that one.
Right.
Yeah.
We have the option of labeling it here if we wanted to. I held off because just, worst case scenario, those plants don't make it. And we might have a whole different cast of plants in a couple years from now.
Well, plus some of those plants are throughout Mingus. Some of them skunk. There's a huge swath of skunk cabbage
Right.
where they're in. So if it doesn't take there,
It's true. I mean, it might not be, for me, it's a worst case scenario. It's probably not that big of a deal. Just ideally on a sign, you have what is actually growing there. But if people aren't concerned about that, maybe it's not worth worrying about. But yeah, either way, I want to do individual signs.
Great. So for commission, I do need a motion.
I will second.
I have a first and a second. Any additional comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Moving on down to action item 3B, review comments from Bike Ped Fact-Finding Committee for the 2020 TSP.
So the Parks Commission directed staff to apply for an organ transportation for the TGM grant through ODOT to support development and of a comprehensive bike and pedestrian plan for the city of Coos Bay. We were successful in that grant, and on October 1st, we were notified that we had received $175,000 for this process. On October 16th, staff presented two options. The commission directed staff to give this scope once we received it from ODOT to the Bike and Ped fact finding. Where is it at? The BPFFC for a review, and so they can look at it and maybe provide some insight or some ideas from the Bike and Park Fact Finding Commission on that scope of work. So we delivered that to them on the 7th of November. And today, the Bike and Ped Fact Finding Committee or the BPFFC will present their ideas to the commission. So I'll
All right.
turn it over to the fine folks of the BPFFC.
Carmen?
Who wants to do this? You, Jamie?
We can team
You want
this.
team
So
this,
we
like-
met yesterday here with Greg and Jennifer, and thankfully they had these printed out so that we could go over them the fine tooth comb sort of quickly. And we basically like the design, given the constraints that are within that site.
Oh, this is the
Oh, sorry.
scope of work.
Scope of right.
I still love it.
Yes, I read through this whole thing, and I think Carmen did as well. And we think it's a reasonable process to get this thing going, and we will be working diligently between now and the time that this actually gets going with the fact-finding committee to familiarize ourselves with what's in the STP as it is, so that when it gets rolling, we can jump on board with the what's the PAC
the
project
advisory.
committee.
Committee.
It's going to be 10 people, according to those, made up of several community members and Parks Commission and/or Council Committee. That sound about right?
Yeah,
Carmen?
I would say that also this scope of work document was a pretty boilerplate kind of setup. So, it's kind of generic. It's not getting into the details of what we're actually going to be working on. I think that will come at a later date in terms of, finding all the detailed project scopes. So this is the scope of work for what they were going to find for the actual prescriptive work we will start looking at eventually down the line. So looks pretty good, and we're very grateful to city staff for including us in that and having the opportunity to be able to review such documents. So thank you.
Any additional commissioner comments about the updated 2020 TSP scope of work?
Are you asking?
All
All right, yeah.
all are allowed to speak.
Yeah, I read through this sucker too, and it was terrible to get through. But I agree with everything that Jamie and Carmen have basically said. But I did have a couple of questions, and some of them come from ignorance. Probably most of them. Under the potential PAC members, that listing that's in there, I don't see where the Parks Commission is listed at all. I see the City Council and/or Planning Commission members. And I don't know if that refers to the actual Planning Commission or that refers to the Parks Commission. And seeing as how the focus is on pedestrian and bike issues, it seems like the Parks Commission should actually be listed as one of the potential PAC members.
Well, I think in response to that, I think PAC members may include I think this was just an ideas list. I don't necessarily know if that's where they're limiting to. I think this is just a list of idea participants. I don't know if at the writing of this, or like Carmen referred to it as kind of a boilerplate type thing, whether they knew that our Parks Commission was that involved in our bike and ped. But we definitely would encourage the Parks Commission members, wanted to be part of the PAC.
Well, I just think, they're not added on that list. I mean, the Coos County is on there, the rail link is on there, everybody in the entire world is on there. And I understand that there's more people there than you will find. If you're only going to have 10, you'll find 10. And I don't think you want more than 10. I'm just saying that I think the Parks Commission ought to be listed there because it is the primary commission from the City Council to look at pedestrian and bicycle issues. So that's just my point. So there's in task number 3, which is policy background, goal setting and assumptions, which is page 9. there's a line in there which makes sense. It says the consultant shall identify financial forecasts and realities for the city to eliminate consideration of pedestrian and bike alternatives beyond the capacity of the city's existing funding levels that raise false expectations. And I get that because this is a real complex, this is a complex issue, and funding is obviously a big thing regarding it. I get a little confused though, because later on page 16, it talks about under task 8.4, financially feasible systems. Okay, makes sense. And then it has illustrative systems. I'm sorry, I mispronounced that, which is a listing of the projects that where it doesn't look like it's financially feasible. So I got confused from task 3 if they're just not going to consider anything that's financially not feasible, or if they really are going to have this other category and include planning things that don't look like they're fiscally available to the city in the next 20-year period. So, and again, it's asking for scope, and so I'm just thinking about what their deliverables are, because the consultant's deliverables down there doesn't specifically list projects that may not be financially feasible. So that's on. And then one kind of another one is their outreach includes having a website, so for public comment and stuff. I didn't see in there in any of the deliverables at the very end when they finally come up with the planning document that they're required to put that document on the website. Maybe they are, but I didn't see that. And then along with that, there isn't anything in there about how long that website will be maintained. So just again, in scope of work, just something to think about. And then the final one, and I'll kind of shut up after that, is task 10.2, Planning Commission presentations. Again, this goes to, it says the city will present, I guess, to the Planning Commission. And I guess it's just, are they just talking about standards, ordinance, and codes there that has nothing at all to do, with the responsibilities allocated to the Parks Commission? And if that's the case, that's okay. I'm okay with the way that it's written. I'll be honest with you, there's so much jargon and abbreviation in here. Sometimes it's really hard to figure out what's going on. And I guess that's the way they have to be written, but it gets confusing. And then one last thing that you can maybe explain to me, Greg or Jennifer, is that I know my understanding of this now is that, okay, we say, yeah, this looks good. It goes to ODOT, and then ODOT goes and contracts directly with the consultant for them to do their thing. So in this document, who's the agency?
The ODOT is the agency.
ODOT's the agency.
Where the engines would be. ODOT would be the agency.
Okay. And then, there is a section here that says the ODOT representative has to sign off in writing on some stuff. So does ODOT have jurisdiction over all city roads and sidewalks and stuff, or just ODOT roads?
ODOT has jurisdiction over ODOT roads. Now, in this, they're acting as our representative with the consultant. So they would be signing up, just much like we did with the Alta planning. ODOT signed off on that. We adopted it. The city did. And then that becomes our document, and that becomes our document. And so it would be much akin to that. Once we get our plan, we then add it by reference to our TSP, and then that becomes part of our TSP. And so we have a jurisdiction over our local roads, but they would have the final sign off on this document with our input.
Okay, here's how I kind of read it, and maybe I read it wrong. And in its section, it's task 8.1. It says for alternatives that require a design exception, ODOT Regional 3 roadway manager will confirm that he or she supports the design change exception in writing. And this must be incorporated into the plan's appendices. So they're the agents, so they're the ones that's doing all of this. I read that to mean that there are some standards as far as road construction is concerned and stuff and sidewalks and some, statewide ordinances on what you can do, even though it's not an ODOT road. Is that right?
We have city ordinances on what our standard streetscape looks like.
Are there some state ordinances or rules that require the city to comply with?
There's general guidelines, but it's up to each individual municipality on what they.
So they have total jurisdiction over it. So
Not ODOT.
No,
ODOT is
no,
only
I'm talking about the city. You're saying, so if it's not an ODOT road, does the city have total jurisdiction over it?
with general reason, but there's standards that.
So I'm saying there's
Yeah.
state standards,
so
right?
we have state laws, we have federal guidelines, and we have to do certain things within our right of ways, and we have those rules, but we do incorporate those into our standard design specifications and whatnot and things like that. So we incorporate those mandates and guidelines into our standards.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, when we sign off on a road project within our jurisdiction, then we're signing off on that. We don't get ODOT sign off typically on, let's just say I'm doing work on South Morrison. I don't reach out to ODOT for work for them to sign off on that project.
Okay.
And so we would then now, if there is let's just say we get a loan or something like that, like, so when we worked on South Empire Boulevard, that was a cooperative project with ODOT. And so we worked hand in hand with ODOT on that project. And mind you, that was before my time. So I'm speaking out of basically what my understanding of the project was, is that we worked in collaboration with ODOT. They were the funding for that project. And so we had certain constraints and certain guidelines that ODOT put on us, and it was our road and we maintained that road, but they helped us with design. They helped us with funding. And so they, had certain mandates for that.
But they also
Right.
provided us the flexibility in that project. 'Cause I actually did the plan.
Yeah.
That they have the base level and then they give the city leeway with certain elements of each piece.
Jennifer shaked her head, yes. So that's okay. I just saw that in there and I was concerned about what ODOT had to sign off on one way or the other. So, yeah, I think my biggest takeaway was putting the Parks Commission in there somewhere, to tell you the truth.
We can definitely ask them to include that into that list.
Thank
All
you.
good comments. I guess one point of clarification that does bring up another question in my mind, which is, I would imagine our TSB is kind of an intergovernmental agreement in some ways with ODOT because it overlaps within ODOT jurisdiction. Is that, or is it only, or does our TSP only focus on our jurisdiction?
Well, I think
Into
our
permits.
TSP we're bound by by ordinance or not ordinance, by ORS
Yeah.
to have a TSP. And so we have that. And that was put together in conjunction with ODOT.
Yeah.
So
there you
ODOT
go.
helped us. Yeah, and so we do have jurisdictional
Yeah.
creep, if you will. And so we do share some information with them. So yeah, TSP is our TSP, but it was put together with the help of ODOT. And
I
so
guess-
there's going to be some intermingling of jurisdictions in there. Just like our jurisdiction, our TSP does incorporate some in North Bend in our TSP as well. And so it's there. But when we're referencing city standards and city, we're focusing strictly on city rights of ways.
But I guess what I'm saying is I would imagine that since they are intimately involved with our TSP in some ways that would require them to at least have the ability to look at it and be like,
Yeah,
oh
we're
yeah, that
definitely-
makes sense.
We're definitely strong partners with ODOT on this, on our TSP, on maintenance. We're definitely, we have a great working relationship with ODOT. And we're very proud of those relationships, and they continue to grow. And we'd like to have them as partners because we need them, they need us. And so, we encourage that and we hope that continues to blossom the way it is.
Yep, only good things come
Yeah,
from a
absolutely.
good relationship there.
And only to clarify, we can put in our TSP that we want a stoplight at every intersection, but ODOT is very adept at saying no, which is within their right to do so. So that's just a clarification there.
I noticed too that the study area is not only city of Coos Bay, but parts of unincorporated Coos County, which makes sense because of Bunker Hill. But it also said unincorporated parts of North Bend, which threw me for a
That's
bit.
behind Mingus Park, or behind John Toppins.
Okay.
That's county.
Okay. So the plan will include parts of unincorporated North Bend, right?
Yeah, because that lakeshore loops around on the backside there. And that's
So is that considered county property or is it?
is county.
Okay, cool.
It's the donut.
Yeah. Things you learn.
You know, we got a small part of the county in between the two cities. Like, I don't know if it's, yeah, I guess it is in between.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
that's why they have llamas.
So they have what?
Llamas,
Llamas.
because you can't have hooved animals in the city limits.
That sounds like somebody's a little,
Wow, I've learned even more.
little bit jealous.
This is great.
Somebody's a little bit jealous.
Yeah.
It's gonna move that.
You want to use my computer?
All right, I don't believe we need a motion on that because we were just reviewing the comments.
There was no motion, no action requested
Okay.
for the review of the Bike and Ped Fact Finding Committee of the scope of work.
All right, let's move on down to action item 3C, ODOT TGM grant timeline next steps.
So we kind of had a little bit of this conversation already took place, but just kind of going over the TGM grant. So we want to really preface this by saying that starting tomorrow, if the taking these comments that were done today, incorporating those and passing those along to ODOT, we'll be passing those on to ODOT to incorporate those into this scope of work. So they'll incorporate that, they'll develop the final scope of work, and then from there, they'll put together the final, they'll solicit the costs from a predetermined selection of consultants. That then they'll put it out, they'll put it out to bid. It usually takes about 30 days for them to get all that put together. And then they'll select the contractor or consultant, and then I'll negotiate contract negotiations, which takes about up to 6 months to do that. And so that's the first 6 months of getting through this process, is making those negotiations, getting the contract signed, getting all the paperwork done. And then from there, in about 6 months, we'll probably June-ish, maybe we'll have our kickoff meeting, July, maybe in that time frame, we'll have a kickoff meeting with the selected consultant. And then from there, it's another 18 months before we see the final deliverable. So this is about a 2-year process. In that time, there'll be meetings with the PACs, there'll be meetings, public meetings, there'll be all the stuff that are listed out in the tasks. And we'll see certain milestones and deliverables in that time frame. But we really wanted to just lay out the next 18, 24 months of what this whole thing is going to look like. So the first step is developing the final scope of work. We can incorporate the comments from today's meeting and get the input from the commission and the bike fact finding commissions, Bike and Ped Fact Finding Commission. We'll incorporate those. They'll develop the scope of work. They'll solicit bids. They'll negotiate contracts and get all the stuff taken care of. And then we get into the meat and potatoes. The meat and potatoes is going to take a long time to braise and cook and get it all ready before they can serve it up to us on a platter. And so I just wanted to kind of lay that time frame out so that you folks know that this is going to be a process. It's not going to be done in 6-8 months. That's just the starting off point, is the first 6-8 months. So just wanted to lay that out and see if you guys had any questions or any concerns beyond what we can control, which is going to be the timeframes that are out of our control. So I just wanted to get that in front of you.
The other thing I talked about specifics, what you're talking about now is more the general timeline, and I had one question and a comment too. I'm assuming at some point the city council has done enough to agree to the scope of work, because they're signing on with some saying we're going to do some things in your timeline. Does this, I guess the question is the approval of the scope of work that finally comes back have to be done by the city council?
I don't think so. I don't think the council has to sign off on that.
Okay.
And because we got awarded the grant, I've already accepted the grant based off of the application and the award letter.
Okay. And then the comment, not the question part is, well, when I read through that, there's a lot that city staff has to do. I mean, there's all these things you have to provide, and ordinance and rules and maps, all sorts of jazz, and meet with them a bunch of times too. I mean, I think this is a great project. But I am sitting there thinking, man, oh man, it's putting a lot of work on city staff. So I doubt there's anything that we can do, but if in the course of this, if there's anything that I would suggest that the Parks Commission can do to help lessen that load, we should be amenable to accepting that. So,
well, thank you for that offer. We do appreciate it. And we know that this is important to not just this commission, but also the community. And I think we have that level of dedication to this project. So.
Thank you so much. Other commissioner comments? All right. Thank you so much for your work on this. Action item 3D, review comments from the BPFFC for 30% design for the Front Street project.
All right, Janie, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
I must be disliked. They had to beat D instead of.
So I'll give just a brief introduction because I know Jamie's chomping at the bit here. So at the October 7th Urban Renewal Agency meeting, they approved to award the contract to the David Evans Association to move the 30% drawings or the 30% design for the Front Street project to the 100% design, utilizing funds for the downtown URA. At the October 16th Parks Commission meeting, the commission directed staff to provide the 30% designs to the BPFFC for the review. And today they are going to present their comments from that review.
Sure. All right. So yesterday, yeah. So we have had several meetings with the BPFFC committee and tried to figure out what we're looking at. And I will say that being not necessarily industry professionals, it took us a little bit of time. And we didn't get very far. But yesterday, staff was gracious enough to give us some time to help us go through this. And myself and Jamie and Emily, who was also on the committee, were able to look over things and digest it a little bit. And we feel fairly comfortable with the current plan as presented. We had a few comments based on there's shared multimodal use paths, and there's a little necking down at one point kind of near I guess it would be the 999 building around right there, where there is then a transfer over to the other side of the street for a bicycle lane for a little bit of time before it juts back over onto a multimodal sidewalk again. And so there was a little bit of disjointedness there, but we have reviewed the issue, and really it comes down to there's just some building constraints within that area, mainly being the railroad is kind of this immovable, entity that we're going to have to design that whole, waterfront area around. So that makes it a little bit of a struggle, and especially when you're also trying to accommodate a specific amount of parking spaces. Basically, we learned a lot from staff. We were able to review the plans, look at it. They look great. I think it's going to be a huge improvement. Is this the most ideal setup for bicycle and pedestrians? Maybe not, but it is the most ideal with what we have to work with right now at this point in time, from what I could see. And I believe we both felt comfortable. I can't speak for Jamie, but you can go ahead and chime in.
Yeah. Ditto on, he said, and the constraints of the rail system is what's bottlenecking in certain places, along with the The existing businesses are right up to the property lines, and so we don't have any wiggle room there. And that works for most of it, however, in this plan. And there is a place where we talked about doing walking bikes on the constrained place with pedestrians, and that could work as an interim, but otherwise you have to cross, like Carmen said. And I don't know if it's appropriate to mention in the commission whether or not there should be a reach out to the port to say, is there any possibility of that rail line being removed in the near future? Probably not our purview, but that would make it simpler for design. Of course, it's the cart before the horse, I think.
Yeah.
As Carmen says, I think it works with the constraints that we have, and if there are any developments in the future as such, it would give us an opportunity to reevaluate the situation.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice to reevaluate those situations before we actually put, shovel into dirt or start chipping away at concrete or whatever we're going to be doing. But all in all, the plan looks really good, and I'm really excited to see something moving forward. And speaking on not exactly behalf of the council, but from a council perspective, this is a big goal for the city council to start working on Front Street, and of course to include multimodal transportation opportunities as much as possible within any of our new developments. So kudos to staff for getting this to where it is at the moment. There's still a long process before we are finalized, but I think the Bicycle and Pedestrian Fact Finding Committee feels pretty good about it at this moment. So that being said, we still want to be a part of whatever goes forward. If there's any new developments or lack thereof in terms of the rail, we have a lot of work to do to just kind of catch up in general with all of the documents that the city has that are surrounding multimodal transportation, especially the TSP. So that's what we're going to be focusing on, I think, in the future. And once again, really grateful to staff for allowing us the opportunity to review these documents so that we can put our stamp of approval, or I guess we can't do that, to give the factual data that we like it. That's good.
And to get this moving on to the 100% situation.
All right. Thank you so much. Do we have any other commissioner comments or questions? Kurt?
I had a question.
Oh,
In
go ahead,
the
Patrick.
plan, is there any bike parking that you guys saw?
That's a good question. I did not see any bike parking.
So there is some bike parking right in the new parking lot. That's the leg things. But that is a good point. I do know that I believe in the code does require, no, because there's no parking requirement for Front Street. So, but yeah, that's a good point. And that's something to think about in this, the TSP as a whole, is that bike parking element.
Could maybe just sacrifice a parking spot and just sort of have that be, but a couple bike racks there. And it wouldn't have to be anything significant, which, yeah, just curious.
Yeah, I thought about that, whether there was any bike parking down there or not, as well. In this, Greg, in this process, when they eventually get up, so my understanding is the consulting firm now is going to take the 30% plan and make it a 100% plan, which I guess is more construction details and probably not a lot of changes in the overall plan. Is that right?
Yeah, so we were talking last night with Jamie and Carmen. We were discussing kind of the next steps. So usually in a set of plans, there is a 30, 60, 90, 100% iterations. So at 30, once we get to 60, that's pretty much most of the design. 90, then we start talking about the details. We're going into the, is the I's dotted, is the T's crossed? Is that arrow pointed at the right thing, type thing. We don't really typically make too many changes beyond 60. So our next step in this project is going to be the 60% drawings. And then that's going to be the point where we're making, really now is when we're making changes. At 60%, we don't really want to make changes because that's going to start doing rework. But 60 is where we start really flushing out those, any kind of things that we really just don't like. But 30% is now is when we need to make any changes. 60% is when we start, really dialing it in and really start getting the controls of where we're at. 90%, we're really just looking at the I's, T's, and those type of things. And then the 9% is getting it. Those are construction ready documents.
The 30%, the one reason I ask is the 30% design, when you go through that, how that process, there was a lot of public input and business owner input, and they came up with a lot of good ideas and suggestions. And so if there's not going to be much substantial deviation from the 30% design, I guess there probably isn't a lot of need for maybe a whole heck of a lot of public input. But I'm wondering if at some point in the process, before you get to a point where you don't want any more changes, is there going to be an opportunity for other input on the plan to say, yeah, this really looks good?
I don't know on the new scope of work with DEA to bring this to the final, Jennifer, maybe you could speak to that if there's going to be public comment for that.
So I spoke about this to the city manager, and she suggested that the public input really happened at the blueprint phase. And like I said yesterday to Jamie and Carmen, these plans do not really deviate from the blueprint. I like the idea about the parking storage. The parking lot that we just installed does have some, but there might be an area where it's just not big enough for a parking space. So we can definitely look at that. I'll pass that on to DEA. But to your point, the direction we've been given is kind of the public comment period happened during the blueprint stage. And if we deviated greatly, then I think, yeah, we should open it up. But since we haven't, if you're comfortable, we'd like to stay the course and just work with this commission and the fact-finding committee.
Of course, my concern's always about Market Street, so I won't go there again. And I know we're going to have a blinking light, which is okay for getting across Highway 101. And I read one of the ODOT things is they don't like those kind of enhanced crossings unless it's more than 500 feet from some other crossing that they had. Crazy rules. That was the thing I was asking about ODOT rules. The piece of property in front of Sauce Brothers to tie in the boardwalk to Front Street. Is there any consideration about what's going to be done there to tie in Broad Street, the boardwalk into the Front Street project?
Yeah, we're in negotiations with Sauce as we speak.
Because you're so limited in getting across Highway 101, and with the old fencing there and the railroad tracks, it really would be nice to tie that all in and make it a little bit easier. Then my last comment is, I do think there's a lot of difficulties with paths, multimodal paths. If it's pedestrian and bikes, it looks like it has to be 12 feet and all sorts of stuff. And it does narrow down in a lot of places. Again, I don't expect the traffic to be really fast there, partly because of the railroad tracks, but partly because of other stuff. I don't know what it's posted at. It's probably 25?
Yeah, if a speed limit is not posted, then the speed limit is 25. But
yeah,
I don't remember. Was it 20, Jan? I'm not sure what the posted speed limit is down there, but I'd imagine it's either 20 or 25.
Yeah,
it depends on how fast people run out of your way.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I know parking's an issue for businesses and stuff too, is that when we talked about the project to go from Front Street to Mingus, we eventually got to bike lanes, but before that, we talked about painting little share the road signs on the highway. On Front Street, that might be an appropriate thing to consider too, because the traffic's not really moving very fast. Parking's an issue for businesses. And bikes and pedestrians on a narrow sidewalk in some places may not be good. It would be a good place for those kinds of things on the highway and just say, share the road. But I'm real excited about it, and I think it'll really help pedestrian and bike traffic, but I think it'll really help the city. And as an aside comment that has nothing at all to do with this, I hope 35 miles an hour becomes the rest of Highway 101 through that whole area, so people can get in and out of there now without any difficulties. So that's it.
Any other additional commissioner comments or questions? All right. Thank you so much for that information. We're moving on to action item 3E, park-related projects and grant updates.
City staff will provide monthly update reports to the Park Commission to highlight progress on grants, capital improvements, and operations related to parks. These updates are designed to keep the commission fully informed, support proactive decision-making, and outline both recent accomplishments and the work anticipated in the coming months. For John Toppitz, the CIS Wildfire Risk Management Grant was not successful. The Hazard Mitigation Grant Program from OEM was not successful. Action Implementation and Mitigation AIM program through COCO application submitted October 16th, 2025, requesting $225,000 to support vegetation removal and hazardous fuel mitigation efforts at John Toppitz Park. For that project update, work is ongoing. The current vegetation and fuel reduction occurring behind Ackerman Apartments. Staff continue to monitor progress and ensure all work remains compliant with the grant scope. For Mingus Park restrooms and rewilding, Reeser Family Foundation application submitted August 1st, 2025, requesting $55,000. The site visit was completed on October 15th. Decisions expected December 2025. Mingus Park Community Building staff continue to pursue additional grant funding for structural stabilization, including the roof, chimney, and the next phase of the restoration effort. And operations and maintenance, visitor information center Christmas tree. Staff has set up the Christmas tree at the visitor center in anticipation of Santa's arrival and the annual tree lighting to kick off the holiday season. Empire Christmas tree setup. Staff installed the community Christmas tree in Empire to celebrate the holiday season. Santa will be visiting and help light the tree in front of the Empire mural, Christmas decorations. Staff is actively preparing and installing holiday decorations throughout the city to create a festive and welcoming atmosphere for the community. Mowing operations at each of the parks, trail brush cleanup at John Toppitz Park, new entrance sign at John Toppitz Park. New marina host is Eric Sharman. New Mirage agreements in process. New camp host, Eastside Park, Warren Tharp. New camp host, Empire Boat Launch, John Birch. Advertising for new camp hosts at John Toppitz Park.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the updates. Future agenda items, we have the tree planting by OBAM is an item that needs to be added. Any other additional commissioner comments or items that they would like to add to future agendas? No. Greg?
Yeah, we would like at the December 2nd work session, December 4th work session. Can I give a brief on that?
Yeah, Nicole, city manager, has got me in touch with the charitable partnership fund that I would like to inform you guys all about.
Okay, wonderful.
At some time, and we may be too busy at the next work session, but maybe I'd like to talk about Adopt the Parks program again too. I mean, I've got a couple of folders that Jamie laid on me from when we went and did the little thing at the volunteer fair. But with Coco kind of being added commission and stuff, I think we need to talk about that whole project and what we're doing and who wants to be involved and steps going forward. So.
Okay. Can we make that our January work session? Oh, actually, we're not meeting in January for our work session because it is on a holiday.
Yeah, I think it's the first, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
February work session? That kicks it down, by the way. February work session.
February work session.
All right. Moving on down to staff commissioner closing comments. Greg, I'll have you go ahead and start since you have.
Yeah, let's do it. Well, first of all, I just really want to say thank you to this commission. You guys have continued to do great work, and you guys continue to provide some good guidance to staff, and I just really do appreciate it. But in front of you folks is a update from Coco. She provided to me early this month. However, we had a pretty robust agenda. So I asked her if it would be okay if we just kind of share this information with you guys to kind of peruse through at your own leisure. But this is really talking about the the trail markers out of John Toppins Park. Again, she's been a big bulldog on that. She's gotten all the posts basically donated to the city. Her and her husband have been doing a lot of great work regarding these things. They're doing the routing and doing those type of things, and they're doing some painting. I think Jamie has been involved with some of the painting.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm waiting for Lance to.
Okay. And so we're going to be doing some more painting, and then we're going to be installing the rest of the trail markers. And so, yeah, I just wanted to provide this update to you guys to look at. So if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out. But I think it's pretty much self-explanatory that she is wow, and she's doing a great job. And continues to do a great job, even though she's been in poor health for a couple months. But she still is amazing. But with that, I just also want to let you know that we have started the procurement process. So we started this. We started a new group called the Gordian Group, which is a cooperative purchasing group that they kind of gone out and they've already negotiated really the best pricing, right? And so they've hired 3 general contractors, and so we have some boardwalk projects that we have slated for this year. We've already talked about it here at the commission, the retaining wall, the handrail, those 2 projects at the boardwalk. And I'm going to work with those folks on those 2 projects. And so we've already met with them. We've got scopes of work ready to go. We've already reached out to a contractor and hired a contractor. And so right now we're just in the, I don't want to say negotiation, but we're at the pre-construction phase of this. So what this Gordian group does is it eliminates a lot of that upfront work for city staff. Usually during a procurement, we got to develop plans, we got to develop this, we got to develop that, we got to develop the front ends and all the contractual stuff. And then we got to go out for bid and all these things. We don't have to do all that stuff. There's still some steps that we have to do, but the lift for staff is a lot lighter. It's not as intense. And so we're going to be doing that with the 2 projects on the boardwalk. And I hope that we see a lot faster results than what our typical bid process is. Usually, 4 to 6 months from the time from we say this is when we're going to bid it and develop the specs and plans to the time we actually put a shovel in the ground is usually 6 months. I think it's going to be a lot sooner than that, but we're excited about it. So we're doing that with the two of the boardwalk projects. And so we should see that. And the roofing project is one of those. And so we should see the results of that pretty quickly. Matter of fact, it's been a barrage of email back and forth over the last 4 or 5 days of just really dialing in all the stuff. And hopefully by the time I come back from vacation over Thanksgiving, I have all the documents in place and we can just go ahead and pull the trigger. But we probably won't see the work, especially the re-roofing work, until we get past winter, just because of, I don't want to be up on a roof myself during some of those storms that come in. But we may see some progress on, the other projects. So anyways, that's exciting for us as well. We've been doing a lot of trail cleaning inside of John Toppins Park, widening. We had some brush creep on all of the trails out there. And so staff has been out there just kind of widening the trails, cutting back some of that brush. It felt kind of uncomfortable. It felt kind of enclosed. Some of that brush was just kind of jumping out on the trails. So we pushed back about 3 or 4 feet along the trail edge at John Toppins Park, which we've gotten a lot of phone calls and letters of support from people that are using the park saying, hey, thank you very much. It just feels more comfortable. And then just a quick update on the track trail network. They have, we're still working with them through the process. So the next step is identifying just what kind of woodland creatures we want to put on the thing. And so we were able to work with our parks staff, and he's providing me with some of the woodland creatures that have been seen inside the park and fish that people can fish for there. So we provided those comments. So now we're just in the holding pattern, waiting for everything to get done. And once we get it, we'll put it up and we'll open that up for the kids to go in there and use, and hopefully attract some more users to that park. So Yeah, we're doing good things, I think, and once again, could have done it without you guys providing guidance. Thank you very much, and happy Thanksgiving.
Right. Thank you so much. Any other staff comments?
Just happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Thank you. Jamie?
Thank you, Greg and Christina and Christine. Had a delightful trick or treating with Jared and Christina. It's great. Got to know a fellow commissioner better over a couple of hours of giving out candy.
Thank you. Kirk?
I have a friend that walks the asphalt on south of the the boardwalk proper that goes down there, and has told me numerous times that that path is caving in. And yesterday I saw her and she says, "Dang, somebody repaired that path." And so who's ever responsible for that, I want to thank you, because now she'll no longer be bugging me about why the whole path is caving in. So that was great. And I know a lot of people use that path too. So I'm glad that that got done. When I drove down the road behind Mingus Park, I noticed there were 2 nets up on the tennis courts back there now. So they're both nets up there. And I think that's important because it's basically the city's tennis courts now. So now we've got both of them with nets and ready to use. The volunteer fair thing was fun, wasn't it? Yeah. But I have to tell you, the best part of it was Coco showed up. And she was there. She was with her walker. But I must have had 10 or more, maybe closer to 15 minutes talking to her, and it was just delightful. She's doing good, and she's still such a positive person, and she still has so much energy that, to tell you the truth, it was really kind of uplifting. So it was really nice to see her. So, okay, that's it.
Carmen?
I guess one question, I noticed the Mingus Park lighting is still got a track that is not lit. I don't know if that's by design or if so.
No.
It would be on the south side of the pond. Or would that be, yeah, south side of the pond, from the gazebo in the back corner all the way around past Choshi and over to the playground. Those lights are not working. I wasn't sure if that was like we turn those off because we're trying to keep people out of the park at dusk. But anyways, just thought I'd throw that out there as a heads up. And then I was really excited to see the rewilding project and the native plants. And I hope that they all take and do a really good job over there. And maybe someday we can get more native plants in Mingus Park. I mean, we have a good amount, but you know, I always think that more native plants is a better thing. And I've also heard comments about dog parks forever. And someone brought up an idea of maybe taking the swath at Mingus that's kind of a depression where their pathway comes down from, I can't remember what road that would be.
12th?
Yeah. Park, maybe from Park. Yeah.
13.
Yeah, where it comes down there and there's kind of like this, there's the hillsides, grassies, there's a park bench down there, there's a doggy pot baggy station. Maybe just turning that into like a little spot you could maybe let your dog run around at. I don't know. That was somebody that brought that up and I was like, oh, that's not a bad idea. So I will pitch it. And I thought maybe there's food for thought if anybody wanted to explore that. That's an option. But I figured I'd at least share it as a place to let your dog run off leash. I know I never have my dog off leash, but at least not in the park. Yeah, that's all I have. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Very good.
Marv?
I don't have a parks item, but I've been taking every public opportunity I can to remind folks that the Christmas tree lighting this year is moving to Saturday after Thanksgiving instead of Friday, which has been our tradition here in Coos Bay for many, many years. But for those folks who don't want to miss it, it is going to be on Saturday instead of Friday this year after Thanksgiving. The other thing we're doing, and again, trying to make things a little more family friendly, on that day. We're used to having Santa arrived just to light the tree. We're going to have him downtown earlier that afternoon, so parents can bring their toddlers and kids and meet Santa before the Christmas tree lighting in the afternoon. But major change is we're moving that to Saturday instead of Friday.
Good idea. I like that.
I also wanted to echo how much I enjoyed giving candy. It was a very fun. It was a real treat. And Jamie makes a fantastic pirate. I just want to say, and Christina was a very wonderful dear. So thank you for that. And then I also wanted to note that the Roots and Vision Celebrating Chapel Arts gallery at the Coos Art Museum has had so far a really great show. In the first 2 nights of the open galleries, we had 300 people.
Wow.
In 2 different nights for openings, and hope to sometimes see you all there. And I look forward to you all telling me what your favorite piece is. I can't say because I, kind of helped. So
Yeah.
hands off on that one, but just and happy Turkey Day.
Thank you. Patrick? All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody and the energy and efforts that we provide to our community. It's one thing that I am thankful for. So as we practice gratitude in the last few days of this month and at Thanksgiving, I'm thankful for all of you. So thank you so much. We are adjourned.